a lot of people kind of get this fixed mindset when it comes to certain things like their speaking and their communication. Like, I am an introvert. I am an extrovert. I am good with people. I am not so good with people. I'm confident. I'm reserved. But all these labels, they kind of limit you. So something that I learned and I had to really realize for myself at that time was
Hey y'all, what's up? It's Parker with UPBEAT. Welcome back. Last week we had an incredible episode with communication expert Ty Hoesgen, and today I'm excited to share with you some of the fast highlights from that interview that are going to offer you the most value in the shortest amount of time. And of course, in my opinion, because that whole episode was like 45 minutes of value. So I would highly recommend giving it a listen still and searching for your own takeaways. But these particular clips, I'm really excited to share with you. They were just too good to miss out on. And I want to make sure that everyone can hear this and everyone can learn from this information, because I do believe it will help you a lot. So in the following clips, Ty shares more with us about not letting labels limit us and 4 very specific actionable communication hacks or tactics to use, especially when selling your services. But really, in my opinion, this all translates to our everyday lives as well. So y'all make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Here's Ty Hoesgen on UPBEAT, sharing 3 communication do's and don'ts for when you're selling your services, and 1 bonus tactic that's extremely powerful in our everyday lives.
I believe a lot of people kind of get this fixed mindset when it comes to certain things like their speaking and their communication. Like, I am an introvert. I am an extrovert. I am good with people. I am not so good with people. I'm confident. I'm reserved. But all these labels, they kind of limit you. So something that I learned and I had to really realize for myself at that time was everything is learnable. Even traits like confidence or being charismatic or speaking clearly. These are all skills that are learnable. So at that point, I just became obsessed with communication, spent every waking hour when I wasn't working, reading, researching, practicing, experimenting, recording myself. It eventually got to the point where I was starting to notice some progress, not throwing up before meetings anymore. Then everything just kind of skyrocketed from there. I say skyrocketed, but it was actually a long process.
Yeah.
It was a long process because I did it all on my own. I didn't really pursue the help of anyone because coaches weren't as prominent at that time. But that's really how I got to where I am today, now teaching others how to communicate and how to speak, not over the course of many years like it took me to learn, but over the course of a few months. Because when you actually know what you're doing, you can make progress much faster.
Well, let's kind of dig into it here then. To give you some context, we just had a previous episode with a body language expert, and we talked about confidence. Something that kind of came to light was these creative entrepreneurs, including myself, sometimes really struggle with selling what it is we do, right? We lack that confidence. We're very creative and confident in what we do, but then when it comes to being on a call like what we're on right now, but the difference is I'm asking you for $3,000 for me to do the thing that I'm good at, right? Then all of a sudden the confidence goes down, the stress goes up, and we've covered body language, but I'm curious what you've got for us with like voice and communication and what we can do to kind of level up in that way.
Really good question. That's great. I'm glad that body language was covered previously, because then they can use the body language tips from that episode and voice for what we're going to talk about now. So let's say you are a creative entrepreneur. You're trying to sell your service to someone or whatever your business happens to be. I highly recommend recording yourself, just saying what you would say to this person as if you're on that call with them. And then listen to it back, and you really want to listen to it back as if you're another person. So listen for things like, do I sound sure of myself? Do I sound confident? Would I believe me? A lot of times we'll actually sound pretty confident when we're talking about what the service is and what we're actually providing. But when it gets to talking about the money or the timeline, stuff that's a little bit more uncomfortable for people, you're going to start to see sometimes some of these voice mistakes coming up. One of the big ones is the inflection of our voice. So inflection with our voice is the change in pitch. So the big thing you're going to want to listen for, which you don't want to do when you're listening to yourself, you don't want to hear going up in pitch at the end of a sentence. So it would sound like this. The program is 3 months long, and the cost is $3,000. So I'm going kind of up in pitch at the end of my sentence. And so it kind of has a question-sounding tone. Now, this is basically asking the person to object because you don't even sound sure of yourself. Okay, so listen for changes in pitch. If you really want to practice this, you'd actually practice going down in pitch. So you'd say, the program is 3 months long and it's $3,000. Instead of it's $3,000, you sound unsure. $3,000. You sound sure.
Yeah, that's a very simple tactic that had a really big difference right there.
Oh, and the amount of people that I've heard on different calls like this, different situations, and they'll crush it the whole call. Everything sounds fantastic, but then you get to some of these most important parts, kind of the uncomfortable stuff that makes people nervous, money being the biggest one. Then they'll do a little upward voice inflection like that, and then it's really hard to come back from because you don't even sound sure. So why would the other person be sure?
Yeah, well, and sometimes I've seen like rambling into another question, which if they're not asking the question, maybe their voice is doing that because internally they're asking the question. Like, the service is $3,000. Is that okay with you? Like, what do you think? It's kind of that follow-up of, but maybe even if they're not saying that, it's still coming through in their pitch,
For sure. So practicing that until you can be almost like it's second nature, where you can, okay, I'm going to practice going down in pitch to where that just sounds really comfortable, really natural. Another big mistake you want to look out for is if you're decreasing your volume during some of those important parts. So if I say the program is 3 months long and it's $3,000, it's really making me sound less confident and, again, less sure of myself. You want people to be confident in you, so you have to make sure that your voice is projecting enough confidence that they trust you and they trust what you're saying. So we've got not going up in pitch, ideally going down in pitch, not decreasing our volume, ideally keeping that volume consistent. And then another one, this is going to be probably, those would be the top 3 biggest mistakes. This third one is going too fast, rushing through that part. Anything that's uncomfortable, we usually want to rush through it, right? So not only keeping your speed consistent, but actually slowing down your pace to make the other person feel more comfortable. They don't really like talking about price either. So if you slow down, it shows you're relaxed, shows you're calm, in control. And these are all signals that you want to send to the person that's potentially about to work with you, give you money, and trust you to help them get them a result. So top 3 there to summarize: don't go up in pitch, don't lower your volume, and don't speed up, slow down. Let's say we're talking about price, for example, in that situation you mentioned. It can also be a good way of making the other person reflect on what they've said. So if they say, okay, your price is $3,000. I mean, can we do like $2,000? $3,000 seems a little bit high for that. You could say, okay, it sounds like you want me to accept less than the program is worth. And when you say it like that, they reflect and they think, well, I mean, I don't necessarily want to give you less than it's worth. I guess $3,000 is just a lot for my budget right now. Okay, so then now maybe you can do $2,000 for a lesser program, not $2,000 for the full thing. But maybe they actually only have $2,000, and now you've uncovered that, and you can go from there. Either way, you're just trying to make sure you understand, and you're getting all the information you need. So it sounds like, then whatever your understanding is, and then they're going to confirm or correct you, and you win either way.
Y'all, thanks so much for listening. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast and find me on social media at parkerkane.co, parkerkane.co. That's actually my website as well. We'll see you in the next one. And until then, stay upbeat.